Sawadika! So we all know that the Ratliff family is, or was, loaded. But today I want to find out just how much they were willing to pay for their nightmare of a vacation. You know, just so we can get a better sense of how much money is on the line for them and how much they'll inevitably be losing. First, let's look at flights. From Durham to Koh Samui, which is where the resort is, for 5 people, business class, of course. You heard what Victoria said. She doesn't have it in her to live an uncomfortable life. For the dates, I chose between the 19th to the 26th of April, and here's my reasoning behind that. We're given a couple of clues as to when the action happens in season 3. The best clues being, one, that Zion, Belinda's son, is just finishing up his final exams, so we know that we're at the end of a semester. And number 2 is Lachlan is about to make his decision on whether he wants to go to Duke or Chapel Hill for college. Now, a quick Google search tells me that National College Decision Day in the US, where students wanting to enroll in the fall semester need to make their decision by May 1st. And final exams for the winter semester are usually in mid-April. So I think the 19th to the 26th is a pretty fair assumption. Obviously, leaving and coming back on a weekend so that Saxon and Timothy don't have to fly during the work week. So let's see what our options are. Okay. Wow, so immediately I'm seeing that there's only one flight that has less than 3 layovers. Conveniently, it's the least expensive and a whopping $50,000. You can buy a car with that amount of money. Oh my God. Let's see where it takes us. Durham to San Francisco, then San Francisco to Singapore. Unfortunately, Victoria, I don't think you'll be flying over the North Pole for this route. And finally, Singapore to Koh Samui, totaling 27 hours and 40 minutes in transit. Yikes. Okay, now let's look at the return flight. Oh God, it's even worse. There's 3 stops, so 4 flights totaling 32 hours and 28 minutes. From Samui Airport to Hong Kong, then Los Angeles, Newark, and then finally back to Durham. Imagine how many lorazepams Victoria would need to get through that.
Hyper, no!
This is already more expensive than any vacation I've ever been on, including my destination wedding. But we move on. Let's look at accommodation costs now. So I'm on the Four Seasons Koh Samui website. This is the exact resort where they filmed the show. Let's put in the dates. I'm doing from the 20th to the 26th to account for their day in transit. What are we thinking here? I personally feel like this is gonna be more than the flights. Okay, I think I found the exact villa. Check it out. The little portico is the same, the interior. Look at the living room, that's the same. This is it, okay. The only thing that's missing is the furniture with 100 drawers in it. Oh look, it's a casual $10,000 a night.
Tsunami!
However, it does come with daily breakfast and a 60-minute spa treatment per person. That sounds fair. Now let's see how much the total would be with all the fees and taxes. Why am I nervous for this? I'm not even going on this vacation. We're spending the money for that matter. Are you ready? $73,484.07 for 6 nights. This is already so much more money than my mind can compute spending on a 1-week vacation. On to the airport transfers. So from what I could gather, the Four Seasons doesn't actually offer that whole boat airport transfer thing that they were doing on all the seasons. So the best I could find is that they offer a luxury van pickup service for up to 5 passengers, which would be $94.16 each way, or $188.32 both ways. Now, I know the Ratliffs barely left the resort, but just for fun, I'm pretty sure I just found the exact boat that they used on the show to arrive on the island. They don't actually offer airport transfers, but if you really wanted the White Lotus experience, you'd have to rent it for half a day, obviously. And if you were the Ratliff family with 5 adults, it would come out to 37,400 Thai bahts, or about 1,100 US dollars. As we saw earlier, breakfast is already included in the price of the villa, so let's look at lunch and dinner options and how much that would cost. The resort has two main dining options, the Kotai kitchen, which is open for breakfast and dinner, and the Pla Pla, open for lunch and dinner. Let's look at lunch at the Pla Pla first. What a great name. Okay, there's actually so many options. Oh my god, okay. It looks like you can get a meal for as little as 450 bahts or as high as 2,500. But let's say the Ratliffs each get an average meal for lunch at around 1,000 bahts. That's a total of 5,000 bahts or about $150 per lunch for the whole family. Now, assuming they have 5 lunches at the resort, not including the day they get there and the day they leave the resort, then that totals about $750 for lunches for the whole stay. Now for the dinners at the Kotai kitchen. Let's look at the menu. Okay, so I feel like the Ratliffs would indulge a little bit more during dinner. So let's assume that they each order a starter, a main dish, and a dessert. They have tapas, but I'm not sure this family's really into sharing. Dishes, at least. So if we average out the price of the starters, in addition to the main courses and desserts, I'd say we get a total of about 1,830 bahts or approximately $55 per meal. So if we're still assuming they're staying 6 nights, one of those nights only 3 of them showed up, and another one of those nights none of them showed up because 2 of them were at the monastery and then the rest of them were at Gary/Greg's party. So that means that there were 4 nights of 5 meals and 1 night of 3 meals. Assuming, of course, the whole family shows up for their last supper of their vacation. These calculations might not be accurate after the final episode, I don't know. Now, according to the Four Seasons website, all prices are subject to a 17.7% tax and service charge, which would be an additional $356.65 for a dining total of $2,371.65. That's usually how much my entire vacation costs. I also found out that tipping is not a cultural obligation in Thailand, especially not when service charges are involved, so let's just assume that the Ratliffs aren't tipping. I mean, who are we kidding? Papa Ratcliffe is probably not feeling very generous with his money right now. Moving on to the last category, beverages. So we know that Victoria loves wine. Timothy uses whiskey. Oh, hello. Timothy uses whiskey as a crutch, and Saxon is partial to a beer or 2 by the pool. So let's figure out just how much their vices are going to cost them for the week. Hey. Let's start with the wine list. What would Victoria Ratliff drink? Definitely white, old world. I'm thinking a nice Puy Fumé from the Loire Valley in France, perhaps? That would set her back 5,900 bahts or $172 per bottle. I'm also thinking because of the Great Lorazepam shortage, Victoria's probably drinking about a bottle, if not more, of wine a night. And if she doesn't finish it, let's just assume that she shares it with Timothy. So let's do 1 bottle a day for 6 days, and that comes out to $1,032 for the entire trip. Now for Timothy's whiskey. Oh, look, they actually have bourbon. He might like that. He's American. Let's say he orders a Maker's Mark for 420 bahts or $12 USD a pop. That's not too bad. The only time we really see Timothy drinking excessively is always on Gary's dime. There's the boat and Gary's party. So let's say that the rest of the time he's being somewhat reasonable with 2 drinks per night for 5 nights, because 1 night he's at the party, for a total of $120. For Saxon, let's say he orders a local beer for 290 bahts or about $9 a bottle. And let's assume he's also being reasonable. With 2 beers a day for 6 days, that would give us $108. Honestly, I don't think I've seen Piper drink anything during this entire season. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and assume that she'd be fine with tap water. Last but not least, I think I've seen Lachlan drink a Coke here and there around the resort. So that's 180 bahts or about $5 per bottle. So let's say he has 2 a day. This would bring us to $60. Again, with the 17.7% service charge and taxes, it would come out to $1,553.64. All right, I think that's a pretty comprehensive list of expenses for the Ratliffs. They didn't really do much outside of the hotel, so I don't know what else they would have spent money on. But if you have an idea, let me know in the comments so I can have a laugh. Without further ado, the grand total for the Ratliffs train wreck of a White Lotus vacation is $129,512.68. A small price to pay to help your daughter write her thesis. And then confess that that was a lie. There is no thesis, and she really just wanted to check out a monastery that she intends on running away to for a year. But oh wait, now she doesn't anymore? And for your sons to turn their weird power dynamic into an incestuous relationship, for your wife to have severe withdrawal symptoms from her anxiety medication that you've been stealing to cope with the fact that the FBI is after you for fraud and embezzlement, and to escape the idea of life behind bars, you're now dreaming of a murder-suicide. Welcome to the White Lotus. What happens in Thailand stays in Thailand. God, I can't wait for the finale episode.